It's Monday, February 23rd. I'm Brittany Noble, and here's what's coming up on the breakdown. A black man is allegedly executed by Grand Rapids police. Now his mother has a message to law enforcement and her son's supporters as she fights for answers and justice. A 21-year-old black college student is found hanging from a tree in Georgia. Police have ruled it a suicide, but not everyone is convinced that's what's happened. Plus, radio host Solomon Jones shares how Reverend Jesse Jackson positively impacted America and how his work helped to pave the way for others in politics like Barack Obama and Kamala Harris. Pamela Anita Mary Davis tells us how she turned her life story from defeat into triumph, and now others can use her as a guide to transform their lives for the better. The breakdown starts right now. Well, a black mother is demanding answers after her 32-year-old son, DeQuayne Johnson, was shot multiple times by police in Grand Rapids, Michigan. The shooting happened Wednesday night around 9:30 near Eastern Avenue and Martin Luther King Jr. Street in the parking lot of an apartment complex. Johnson was taken to the hospital where he died the following day. Police say they believe that he was armed with a handgun, so they pursued Johnson, who was on a bike. The dash camera video from police shows the emergency lights and sirens were activated as Johnson rode the bike away from the police into the parking lot. One officer deployed a K9 that attacked Johnson. Footage from an officer's body camera shows him moving in toward Johnson with his gun drawn, demanding he get on the ground with his hands up. According to Grand Rapids police, an officer fired their weapon. As the family now fights for justice, his mother has a message.
so that our grandkids and our great grandkids have an extended life. I also want to let the community know I thank them for their support. I do, however, want to reiterate that I do not condone any type of violence, not even to the officer who shot my son in the back of the head. Okay? So if you're gonna protest, please make it peaceful. Because if you can't do it peacefully, please don't march at this time and say that you're doing it on behalf of my son. Because I can't get justice if we're being violent too. Okay? So I need the community to know I want you to show up and show out, but we got to show out in the right way. Because the only way we can make a difference is if we stop acting the way they want us to. I'm a little numb. So if I'm not crying, it doesn't mean I'm not hurt. If I'm not standing here with my strength right now, I'm standing here with the strength of God. Because at 11 o'clock today, the Lord met me right where I was in that beautiful home. No mother, no mother should ever have to have the final memory. That's what I got tonight, today. The evidence is there. Y'all couldn't see it, but you will soon enough. But my son was shot in the back of the head. He was mauled in the neck by a dog. And the way he was shot in his hands, you could tell that his hands were being held behind his back. To the police chief, I'm not mad at y'all. What I want y'all to know is, yeah, Daquan was on parole. Daquan was a convicted felon. He was, but Daquan had a heart of gold.
Johnson's family is pushing back on the claim that he had a gun, saying he did not pose a threat to officers. Well, a 21-year-old missing college student, Kyle Basinga, was found hanging from a tree in Fair Oaks Park in Marietta, Georgia, 4 days after he vanished on February 14th. Here's video on Kyle's Facebook page of an altercation with a police officer where he says he was unlawfully detained on Georgia State University campus. Cobb County police say there is no evidence of foul play and are treating his death like a suicide after he was found in a wooded area of the park. His family and residents say they are not convinced he killed himself. The New Order National Human Rights Organization has planned a vigil for tomorrow, February 24th at 11 a.m. to honor him. Well, Alabama civil rights icon Joanne Bland has died. Bland was one of the youngest people to march across the Edmund Pettus Bridge on March 7, 1965, also known as Bloody Sunday. She dedicated her life to educating and preserving the history of the civil rights movement. Bland helped co-found the National Civil Rights Museum and Institute in Selma, Alabama in 1993. In 2007, she founded Journeys for the Soul, a tour agency that offers a deep dive into the struggle for voting rights in Selma. She was instrumental in the vision for the nonprofit Foot Soldiers Park and Education Center, a group committed to inspiring younger generations while teaching them about the history in Selma. No word yet on the cause of death. She was 72 years old. Minnesota Vikings wide receiver Rondale Moore has died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. He was just 25 years old. Police say the Indiana native was found dead in the garage of his New Albany home. Moore's death has sent shockwaves through the NFL community. The former Purdue player was drafted as the 49th pick in the second round of the 2021 draft by the Arizona Cardinals. Moore played with the Cardinals for 3 seasons and was traded to the Atlanta Falcons, but did not appear in any games after being injured during training camp. He most recently signed with the Vikings. Well, President Donald Trump is demanding Netflix fire former U.S. Ambassador and National Security Advisor Susan Rice from its board. Trump posted a message on his Truth Social account this weekend calling for the streaming company to let her go immediately or pay the consequences. Trump is referring to Rice as racist and Trump deranged, even questions how much she's being paid. The president wrote in part Netflix should fire Susan Rice immediately or pay the consequences, adding that her power is gone and will never come back. The comments come after Rice appeared Thursday on the Stay Tuned with Barat podcast, where she said corporations that take a knee to the president and break the law should expect consequences.
And when it comes to the elites, you know, the corporate interests, the law firms, the universities, the media, I agree with you, Preet. It is not, it's not going to end well for them. For those that decided that it was, you know, that they would act in their perceived very narrow self-interest, which I would underscore is very short-term self-interest, and, you know, take a knee to Trump. I think they're now starting to realize, wait a minute, you know, this is not popular. Trump is not popular. What he is doing, whether on the economy and affordability or on immigration now, is not popular. And that there is likely to be a swing in the other direction. And they are going to be caught with more than their pants down. They're going to be held accountable by those who come in opposition to Trump and win at the ballot box. And I can tell you, Preet, you know, as I talk to leaders in Washington, leaders in our party, leaders in the states, if these corporations think that the Democrats, when they come back in power, are going to, you know, play by the old rules and you know, and say, oh, never mind, we'll forgive you for all the people you fired, all the policies and principles you've violated, all, you know, the laws you've skirted. I think they've got another thing coming because, you know, just like when Trump thought, okay, I'll redistrict and the Democrats won't have the guts to play hardball. They're going to be surprised. Democrats have had a belly full, and we're not going to play by the old set of rules when these guys are playing by a very different set of rules. We're going to play by the law, but we're not going to violate the law the way they do, but we're not going to be suckers. And so I think, whether you're a law firm, whether you're a university, whether you're a media entity, whether you're a big corporation, whether you're big tech, you need to play a long game, not this short game that has been so detrimental.
Well, Trump's comments come as Netflix and Paramount Skydance face a key deadline in the bidding war for Warner Brothers Discovery. The Department of Justice is reviewing the proposed acquisition. Well, during the British Academy of Film and Television Arts in London, a white man yells out the N-word. It all happened on Sunday night while Black actors Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo presented an award on stage. John Davidson has Tourette syndrome, a neurological disorder characterized by involuntary tics and vocalizations, and he yelled out the racial slur. Here's the clip.
Delroy and I are delighted to be presenting the first BAFTA of the night for a vital part of movie making.
We're here to celebrate.
Well, Davidson, who has long campaigned for awareness of the condition, told CNN before the ceremony that he was worried about the involuntary tics. A Black actress is suing Harvard University's American Repertory Theater for racial discrimination and negligence. The lawsuit follows a 2025 production of The Odyssey. Nike Imori alleges that in the suit, the production caused 90% permanent hair loss. She says that an unqualified stylist installed tight, damaging extensions for a role, resulting in severe non-scarring alopecia trauma and lasting scalp damage. She accuses the theater of not properly caring for her hair. She talks briefly about how painful the experience as going through that ordeal.
I believe that the American Repertory Theatre is not upholding the values that they claim to have around race. Damage is indescribable. It is cataclysmic. I did not sleep that night. I slept sitting upright. Because of the pain, I continue to lose it. My hair, it is now permanent.
She also says that due to the hairstyle, some follicles were left empty and minimal regrowth over the following years. She says that the incident has caused significant mental health struggles, including anxiety and trauma. Well, controversy erupts at Morehouse College over a portrait of slave supporter Joseph Smith Jr. The painting was unveiled in the Martin Luther King Jr. International Chapel's Hall of Honor this month. The Hall of Honor is a space that features portraits of individuals recognized for their contributions to civil and human rights. The painting was hung to acknowledge Smith's 1844 U.S. presidential platform, which included a proposal to abolish slavery. Students and staff expressed outrage, arguing that the inclusion of Smith and the founder of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints was inappropriate, lacked student input, and conflicts with the legacy of the historically Black college. Alonzo Brinson, the president of the Chapel Assistance Program, says he was blindsided by the timing of the unveiling.
It was very weird that his stance didn't come until he ran for president. I thought that was very weird. I thought it was very weird that he did not stop his church from owning slaves. And then if you talk to Brigham Young said he got the ideas from Joseph Smith. So I just thought that was very weird. I thought it was very disrespectful, not only to Morehouse College, but to Atlanta, to the whole AUC of Black History Month, the first day of it, that's how we started.
So far, Morehouse has not indicated any plans to remove or relocate the portrait. Well, coming up as we continue to remember the life and legacy of Reverend Jesse Jackson, Wake Up Word radio host who appeared as a guest on Jackson's CNN show shares the wisdom that he gained from working with the civil rights icon. Remember, for more news headlines and in-depth coverage 24 hours a day, please visit the Black Star Network. We are your source for stories that matter to our community. We'll be right back. You're watching The Breakdown.
With medicine and science under attack, I want to keep you and your family informed and healthy. I'm Dr. Ebony Hilton, and I knew at the age of 8 that I wanted to be a doctor. So I studied hard and became the first African-American female anesthesiologist hired at the Medical University of South Carolina since its opening in 1824. And I always say I was made into a doctor, but I was born to be a mom. And as a new mom, wife, sister, daughter, and friend, I understand how frightening a medical crisis can be. I care for individuals on some of the worst days of their lives, and it's my mission to provide you with a safe space to gain clarity on issues affecting your mind, body, and soul. I recognize that there are health disparities, particularly as it pertains to race, and I want to help bridge the gap between you and your healthcare providers. Join me every Thursday for Second Opinion on the Black Star Network, where each week I'll invite experts from various medical fields to share the latest health news. We'll discuss topics such as the vaccine debate, mental and sexual health, medical bias, infertility, menopause, andropause, nutrition, and aging. Together with my medical colleagues, we aim to provide you with a second opinion. Don't miss it, Thursdays only on the Black Star Network.
If in this country right now, you have people get up in the morning and the only thing they can think about is how many people they can hurt, and they got the power, that's the time for mourning.
For better or worse, what makes America special, it's that legal system that's supposed to protect minorities from the tyranny of the majority.
We are at a point of a moral emergency. We must raise a voice of outrage. We must raise a voice of compassion. And we must raise a voice of unity.
We are not in a crisis of party versus party. We are in a crisis of civilization, a human rights crisis, and a crisis of democracy itself. And guess what? You've been chosen to make sure that those that would destroy, those that would hate, don't have the final say, and they don't ultimately win.
I'm Risa Colbert, and you're watching the Black Star Network.
Welcome back. As the world continues to mourn the loss and honor the life and legacy of American civil rights activist, icon, politician, and ordained minister, Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr., Philadelphia's Wake Up with Word radio host and award-winning columnist for the Daily News and Philadelphia Inquirer, Solomon Jones, weighs in on Jackson's gift to the world as an activist, a leader, and mentor. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
So you appeared as a guest numerous times on Jackson's show, Both Sides with Jesse Jackson, that aired on CNN from 1992 to 2000. Tell us a little bit about what that was like.
Well, actually, I appeared on his radio show, Keep Hope Alive, with Reverend Jesse Jackson. He was a multimedia icon. And what I learned from him was that he was very inquisitive. He was very astute in terms of politics and especially protest. The first time I appeared was in 2018. I believe it was April of 2018, to talk about the arrests of two young Black men who had been arrested in a Starbucks here in Philadelphia. They were doing what people do in Starbucks, which is go in, sit down, buy nothing, and have meetings. And so everyone else was allowed to do that. These two young men were arrested. It sparked protests here in the city of Philadelphia. And Reverend Jackson was very interested in how those protests went, what people were doing here, what methods they were using in order to bring about justice in that particular case. I learned that he had been someone who had been protesting since he was a teenager, protesting in the library in Greenville, South Carolina, where he grew up, protesting in the airport with a man who would become his mentor from Philadelphia, Reverend James Hall. And so his involvement with King was just a natural progression of who he was. He was somebody who wanted to stand up, somebody who did not want to subject himself to Jim Crow, even though he had grown up in the South. And I think that carried over into what he did, not only in activism, but also in media.
You know, he's known as the first Black man to make a jump from activism to major party presidential politics, paving the way for people like President Barack Obama. Tell us about, I don't know, what that representation meant for many Black people growing up in the 80s and seeing this man take such a major leap.
So at the risk of giving away my age, I graduated from high school in 1985.
Okay.
And so I'm a young person watching Jesse Jackson run for president. And it was a transformative experience because I had never seen anyone Black do that. Now, of course, there had been Shirley Chisholm before. There had been others who had not run in a serious way or been taken as seriously as Jesse Jackson. But here was Jesse Jackson on the world stage, running for president in the 80s and really electrifying the Democratic National Convention, electrifying the party, and being someone who was a serious candidate for president. I had never seen that before. And so when Barack Obama came along, I had been prepared for that. I think my whole generation had been prepared for that because of what we saw with Jesse Jackson. We saw someone who mounted a serious campaign for the presidency and electrified the party in a way we did not see, quite frankly, until Barack Obama followed in his footsteps.
I mean, Jackson aimed to increasingly bring America's diverse population together with a message centered on the poor and working class Americans. Talk to us a little bit more about that and maybe even about his organization, Rainbow Push Coalition Initiative.
Yeah, well, it first started as Operation Push, and then he morphed it into the Rainbow Push Coalition. And it was a coalition of people from across demographics, whether it was economically, whether it was spiritually, whether it was racially. He was able to bring people together around the common idea of justice, that poor people really were not as separate as they had been led to believe, that they actually were in the same boat economically. And it really was him carrying over the work of Martin Luther King. That was the work that King was involved in the days and months before his death. He was really about an economic struggle at that point. And I think that Jackson quite naturally carried that over. He used that in his own work. And I think he even elevated it to the point where people understood that, no, we are in the same boat. And I think that as his political fortunes rose, I think people understood that. And then as his political aspirations kind of dropped off a little bit, people still understood that, but they didn't have that dynamic leader in Jackson to really carry that through. I think he continued that work in media even after his career in politics. And that's one of the things that I think makes him an icon, that he could carry that same message in politics, in media, in activism, and in all three places carried it effectively.
What was it like being a guest and appearing on his show?
Oh my God, it was it was so surreal. To hear his voice, to be in conversation with him, to share ideas with him, to answer questions from him, to actually know that this is that same man that interested me in politics when I didn't really know what politics was. I just knew that there was this Black man on the television screen. There was this Black man who was electrifying this crowd. There was this Black man who had this history with Martin Luther King. And it was dynamic. It was dynamic because I knew that I was speaking with an icon.
What do you think we can all take away from watching the life and legacy of Jackson? And what should we do to continue his legacy and his work moving forward?
I think that all of us have to work in the place where we are. I think that all of us have to influence the people that are closest to us. And then we have to work in ever widening circles. You know, Jesse Jackson, of course, an ordained minister. I'm now a licensed minister, and so in many ways following in his footsteps. But I think all of us have to work in ever widening circles in order to influence those around us to seek justice. That ultimately is what Jesse Jackson's work was about. All his life, he was seeking justice. From the time they tried to make him sit on the back of the bus, from the time they discriminated against him in the library in Greenfield, from the time they discriminated against Reverend Hall's wife in the airport, to his time with Martin Luther King, his whole life, Jesse Jackson was seeking justice. And I think that's what all of us can take from his legacy.
So, Lamont, we want to thank you so much for joining us on the breakdown and just breaking it all down, your relationship with the Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr.
Thank you so much.
All right, coming up next on the breakdown, did you miss Roland Martin Unfiltered on Friday? Don't you worry, we have you covered. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hey y'all, welcome to The Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network and hosted by myself, Rhea Baker, and my good sis, Jamira Burley. We are just two millennial women tackling everything at the intersection of politics, gender, and pop culture.
And we don't just settle for commentary. This is about solution-driven dialogue to get us to the world as it could be and not just as it is.
Watch us on the Black Star Network, so tune in to The Other Side of Change.
Violent white supremacy is, quote, the most persistent and lethal threat in the homeland.
The greatest terrorist threat to the homeland is the homegrown violence stream, including hate crime committed on behalf of some kind of white supremacist ideology.
They are coming after everything in Black America. MAGA and Donald Trump are specifically targeting Black America. They are going after the money. Attack Black Lives Matter. Attack critical race theory, attack woke, DEI. MAGA wants to defund Black America. This is a perfect example of their desire to completely degrade and de-emphasize Black people.
Hi, I'm Swing Cash, Basketball Hall of Famer, and you're watching Black Star Network.
In our Black and Missing segment, Florida police are asking for your help in finding Margaret Handley. The 72-year-old has been missing since February 6th. She was last seen leaving her home in Jacksonville, Florida. She was reportedly spotted in Stark, Florida at a racetrack gas station, but her license plate was scanned in Hinesville, Georgia. The circumstances of her disappearance are unknown. However, she has a history of memory loss and early onset dementia. Hanley also has high blood pressure. She was last seen wearing a jean dress with black flat shoes and a brown purse. If you know where she could be, please contact the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. The number is 904-255-2735. Well, in case you missed it on Roland Martin Unfiltered, Roland and Alfonso Alexander, president and CEO of the PhD Project, discusses universities all across the country dismantling the DEI initiatives under President Donald Trump.
Now, one of the things that we have been looking at and dealing with is what we have laid out, and that is the targeting of African Americans, the effort by Donald Trump and MAGA to defund Black America. And so what they have been doing is attacking colleges and universities, forcing them to make massive changes to a variety of things. Again, I'm here in College Station, my alma mater, Texas A&M University, being led by this right-wing governor in Texas, Greg Abbott, and this nutcase right-wing Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. They have been forcing the Board of Regents to do away with race and gender. University of Texas took some action today saying that they want to keep students from having to take what they call controversial classes. That makes no sense whatsoever. But what we're seeing here, some 45, 50 institutions are being cut. We're talking about places where they have programming that's about reaching out and increasing the number of African Americans, Latinos, Native Americans, Asian Americans in colleges and universities. Well, Donald Trump's anti-Black, anti-DEI, anti-minority administration is hitting these folks hard. And so now all of a sudden, these universities are scared to death, so they literally are cutting ties with a variety of organizations. The Washington Post had a story. If y'all have in the control room, pull that story up. The Washington Post had a story laying out these cuts. In California, they literally are cutting ties with a chapter of the Lynx. The Lynx president was quoted as saying, we didn't know anything about this, but the one that also, I saw a tweet before I came live, Clemson is cutting ties with a number of conferences. In fact, I remember I spoke in Clemson, they have actually a conference for men of color. More than likely, that conference goes out the window. So people have to understand what we are seeing is a massive attack by Donald Trump and MAGA against efforts to recruit and retain African Americans. So what have I said they're trying to do by defunding Black America? They're trying to cut off access to colleges and universities. They're trying to cut off access to contracts. They're cutting off access to grants and things along those lines. And so there is a wholesale assault on Black America taking place as we speak, and folk need to wake up and understand what's going on. Joining me right now on the show, folks, is the president of the PhD Project, Alfonso Alexander. Alfonso, glad to have you here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. This is it's devastating. Again, I talk about Texas A&M. That was a conference where they were sending some folks, and the whole goal of the conference is to actually recruit minority PhD candidates. Well, Greg Abbott finds out. He orders the president and says to the president, that president has since resigned, if you do not cancel the travel to this, I'm going to fire you. And so what you have right now, Alfonso, are university administrators who are scared to death because what Donald Trump is doing is saying, I'm going to take away your federal funding, your research grants, if you support any of these programming. And so talk about how these ties being cut, how is it affecting your organization, the PhD Project?
Sure. Thank you for having me, Roland. And it's affecting us significantly. We have been a tremendous asset to the academic community by providing access for talented individuals that normally wouldn't necessarily know about how they could get engaged and become PhDs, which then they impact the students that come through, and students of all color benefit from having diverse faculty that they're interacting with. And so what has happened for us specifically is, we had over 200 universities that partnered with us last year prior to the changes that the administration had put in place. And now, it's less than 100 that have partnered with us in that same capacity. Some of them have been forced. Some of them were part of that list of 45 that you referenced earlier, and others because of some of the things and the information that they are having to abide by within their state. That's caused some of those issues too. So we're wrapping up. We're working on other ways to be able to still provide access to young people through faculty who have a diverse level of understanding, diverse mix of individuals, so that they can still impact our country so that we can be better and continue to grow. But it's been very challenging for us from a financial standpoint. A significant financial hit has come our way as a result of this. And we're working through to fight through so that we can continue to provide opportunities.
So for folks who are unaware, so what exactly was the PhD project doing for these students? Were you funding their travel? What was actually happening?
Sure.
And first of all, for folks who don't know, how long have y'all been around?
Sure. So the PhD project has been around since 1994. And what we have done is been able to create a community that includes individuals that were already PhDs mentoring PhD students. PhD students learning and growing and understanding how to be better researchers, how to be better teachers as a part of the process, and how to create that community so that they have a positive impact on students that come through both undergraduate and graduate level programs in business schools. And what we do is provide a forum for those students to get together with those faculty members. We provide access to resources that can help them. One of the challenges and one of the misconceptions that was out there was that we were giving funding to students that fit certain ethnic groups, but not to others. Well, we don't provide funding. We just provide access to information and partnerships that they can then seek opportunities through those. But the influence of the organization has been great in the 30 plus years that we've been around. And that's been what has been a challenge for those who feel like we're helping people who we have traditionally helped and don't think that's necessary.
So here's the question, that is, as a result of this, is this going to, in your estimation, lead to a drop in the number of minority PhD candidates? Or are y'all working to try to find other ways to keep them involved? Because, and this is the thing that I keep trying to explain to people, that what this is this is literally cutting off access to not higher education, but the upper echelon of higher education. So the trickle-down impact of this is that the affirmative action decision in colleges and universities, well, listen, if you can wipe out black students and other minority students from these Ivy League institutions and then these other institutions, and you start, and it's so bad that we see that Auburn, black alumni, taking their scholarships out. We're seeing scholarship programs being impacted, fellowships being impacted. And what Donald Trump and MAGA is saying is that, this is hurting white students. Yet when you look at the numbers, it's not even remotely close to see how many white students are getting PhDs on an annual basis. That far exceeds the combination of black, Latino, Asian American, Native American.
It is you're absolutely correct. So yes, the numbers will decline, and here's the impact that makes. So there are programs that have been funding research. There are institutions that have been funding research, and research that helps people understand how individuals lead, research that helps people understand how businesses are built in different economies and different markets. And those funds are being cut. And so the research funding is being cut. And so if you have individuals that, let's just say hypothetically, they focused on research where they understood how women leaders lead in comparison to how men leaders lead. Well, now that is deemed as research that could be discriminatory. So the funding could be pulled from that. And then therefore, we now have a gap in learning and understanding how women leaders lead versus how men leaders lead. Now, if you take that and look at from a gender, beyond gender, and look at from an ethnic standpoint, any diversity related programming, many of those things either have already been jeopardized or will be jeopardized by a pullback of funding. And all of that cripples the development of academia. It cripples the opportunities that people develop to understand how to be better. So it attacks the entire system from an education standpoint, and particularly those who don't normally have that access, because now if there's not funding available for them to do research or for them to get scholarships, as you mentioned, minority scholarship programs and other scholarship programs that have been designed to help even the playing field are now being restricted or taken away. And therefore, it just gives the opportunities for those who already have those opportunities to get more, and the ones who have limited opportunities to have less.
Well, and not only that, what they also did is they're trying to change the requirement, if you will, or the classification of people who go to nursing school to say that's not in the medical field. And then what they're also doing, they capped what folks can get in terms of financial aid for those postgraduate programs. And so the problem is, if you're a black listen, we know the numbers don't lie. If you're a black student, you're a Latino student, you know, and Native American student, Asian American, you're talking about you don't have access to those dollars. And so now by capping that, folks are like, well, wait a minute, if I don't have the extra $20,000, now I can't get my PhD. And this is what I've been trying to explain to my audience since the inauguration of Trump last year, that what we are seeing, how I frame this, is a massive effort with Project 2025 to defund Black America, that they are attacking multiple institutions, and that is having a profoundly negative impact on our people.
Well, absolutely. There's an organization that you and I both are affiliated, and you know, part of what we do is try to get to know the best of one another. We, through some scholarship funding, have provided hardship scholarship dollars for universities to distribute to students that are in need. We've had 2 universities to tell us that they can't accept those funds because of who those funds have been traditionally going to. So they can't even help students that are in hardship through funding from us as an organization now. So it doesn't just impact what we see and what's overt in terms of some of these things where you have programs that are going away, but there are students who maybe fell on hard times because they had a car that needed repair and could not afford books or could not afford to pay their bill for the rest of that semester. It impacts the academic system overall.
Well, first of all, you're talking about Sigma Pi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, the Boule. I ain't got a problem with actually saying it. But let me tell you, this is what Tom Joyner did. Let me tell you what Tom Joyner did. When Tom Joyner had the Tom Joyner, and this is what I think our black nonprofits are going to have to do as well. When Tom Joyner's his foundation, he did not send the money to the schools. He sent the money to the students. And I think what's going to happen is, that with these organizations are going to say, well, you can no longer have your black alumni scholarship through the Alumni Association. That's where we say, okay, fine. We're going to keep our money. Then we're going to send the word out. If you're a student, if you're an African-American student, you've got a hardship, you let us know, and then we're going to do it that way. Alfonso, what I have been saying all across this country is that this is a moment where African-Americans, to be perfectly honest, are going to have to return to how we moved and flowed during Jim Crow, where we are frankly insulating ourselves, where we are pooling our resources. And I'm like, look, he's going to be there 3 more years. The attacks on black people are going to continue. And so what we have to be doing right now is saying, okay, since y'all are putting up these barriers, we are going to find another way to ensure that our black students are going to be funded and taken care of, and they're not going to be fall by the wayside because of this white nationalist agenda that's coming out of the White House.
With medicine and science under attack, I want to keep you and your family informed and healthy. I'm Dr. Ebony Hilton, and I knew at the age of 8 that I wanted to be a doctor. So I studied hard and became the first African-American female anesthesiologist hired at the Medical University of South Carolina since its opening in 1824. And I always say I was made into a doctor, but I was born to be a mom. And as a new mom, wife, sister, daughter, and friend, I understand how frightening a medical crisis can be. I care for individuals on some of the worst days of their lives, and it's my mission to provide you with a safe space to gain clarity on issues affecting your mind, body, and soul. I recognize that there are health disparities, particularly as it pertains to race, and I want to help bridge the gap between you and your healthcare providers. Join me every Thursday for Second Opinion on the Black Star Network, where each week I'll invite experts from various medical fields to share the latest health news. We'll discuss topics such as the vaccine debate, mental and sexual health, medical bias, infertility, menopause, andropause, nutrition, and aging. Together with my medical colleagues, we aim to provide you with a second opinion. Don't miss it, Thursdays only on the Black Star Network.
Hey y'all, welcome to The Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network and hosted by myself, Rhea Baker, and my good sis, Jamira Burley. We are just two millennial women tackling everything at the intersection of politics, gender, and pop culture.
And we don't just settle for commentary. This is about solution-driven dialogue to get us to the world as it could be and not just as it is.
Watch us on the Black Star Network, so tune in to The Other Side of Change.
Well, here's a conversation I had about postpartum maternal support.
They said the quiet part out loud. Black votes are a threat, so they erased them. After the Supreme Court gutted the Voting Rights Act in 2013, Republican legislatures moved fast. New voter ID laws, polling place shutdowns, purges of black voters from the rolls. Trump's Justice Department didn't stop it, they joined in. In 2018, his DOJ backed Ohio's voter purge system, a scheme that disproportionately erased black voters. Their goal, erase black votes and political power. Yeah, that happened. These are the kinds of stories that we cover every day on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Subscribe on YouTube and download the Black Star Network app. Support fact-based independent journalism that centers African Americans and the issues that matter to our community.
If in this country right now, you have people get up in the morning and the only thing they can think about is how many people they can hurt, and they got the power, that's the time for mourning.
For better or worse, what makes America special, it's that legal system that's supposed to protect minorities from the tyranny of the majority.
We are at a point of a moral emergency. We must raise a voice of outrage. We must raise a voice of compassion. And we must raise a voice of unity.
We are not in a crisis of party versus party. We are in a crisis of civilization, a human rights crisis, and a crisis of democracy itself. And guess what? You've been chosen to make sure that those that would destroy, those that would hate, don't have the final say, and they don't ultimately win.
What's happening? This is your man, Motown recording artist Kim. You are watching the Black Star Network.
The postpartum period is one of the most vulnerable times in a mother's life, physically, emotionally, and mentally. And for so many new parents, the support disappears right after the baby arrives. And that's especially true when it comes to breastfeeding and lactation education, something that can feel overwhelming, painful, and confusing without the proper guidance. That's where organizations like Mama Maternal Wellness step in, providing lactation education, postpartum resources, and support that can make a big difference between struggling and stability. Joining me now is Sierra Woods with Mama Maternal Wellness to break down why postpartum support matters and what parents should know about lactation and how to help families before burnout turns into crisis. Sierra, thank you so much for being with us today on The Breakdown.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Tell us a little bit about why postpartum care is such a critical part of maternal health.
Well, it's huge because typically a lot of people don't have enough support. So you think about, in general, when you have a baby, you're very in a vulnerable position. You have, like, maybe you don't have like people that are there to like help you. And that's why it's really important to have like already planned out support in general. So.
Yeah. What inspired Mama Maternal Wellness? What gap did you see in postpartum support that needed to be filled?
So what I've noticed is that typically in lactation, there really aren't that many people of color that help in the field in breastfeeding. There really aren't that many people that are lactation consultants. So that's kind of where I chose to create something that more so centered in on people that look like us, and also make sure that we're filling in the gaps for that support that people are missing.
When we say postpartum support, what exactly does that mean? I mean, what do new parents often underestimate about this season?
I think people underestimate having enough like help. I think that people underestimate, like they think, oh, I can still do all the things that I was doing before I had my baby, and not realizing that, no, your body just went through a huge thing. And so, for example, like when you have your baby, when the placenta comes out, you have a hole in your belly the size of like a dinner plate. And so that hole actually needs to repair inside of your body. So yes, you might look like, oh, you know, maybe it doesn't look like I really had a baby, but really inside of your body is still trying to heal. Therefore, it's really important to have like other people that can come step in and help you with like dishes, taking care of the baby, even just so you can go shower and have some time to yourself.
Yeah, what are some of the most common challenges you see with new parents? Maybe latching issues, supply concerns, pain exhaustion. What should they do first?
One thing I see a lot is we put so much emphasis on the delivery that we forget about what happens after you have your baby. I think that people think, oh, breastfeeding, it's natural. It should come easy. Like you don't need help with that. Like I need to take a class for that, you know? And what I found is that when people have their babies, whether like in the hospital or at home, it's usually those few days after you have your baby when your baby is like, hey, I'm ready, you know, waking up more like alert, ready to eat. And that's where some of the breastfeeding struggles usually come about, because they feel that, oh, my baby should just latch. This is natural. But really, breastfeeding is learned. Like, it's a thing that you and your baby have to learn together. I always tell people, like, it's kind of like a dance, like the dance that you and your baby have to learn at the same time together. So and sometimes it's different with different babies. So you might not have problems with the first baby, but then the second one, you might have more issues that you're looking for help with.
Sure. Tell us, how soon should a new parent seek lactation support? Should they wait until there's a problem or just begin getting help before the baby even arrives?
So first things first, I think that everyone should take a breastfeeding prenatal class. Like they should take this class even before you have your baby. And also bring your support person with you so that things that maybe you might miss out on during the class, they can then like say, oh, I remember that, from the class, and encourage you and then educate you again on, hey, remember we learned this before. So typically you want to take the class before you have your baby. So then after you have your baby, you already have your planned out, like you have your plan ready for lactation support. You already know like who you're going to call if you do start having issues. You already have met with a lactation consultant prior to. So when those issues do arise, you already have the number.
A lot of parents feel guilt if breastfeeding doesn't work out the way that they planned. How do you help parents navigate that emotional pressure?
I always tell people that breastfeeding is truly however you want it to be. So breastfeeding is not just all or nothing. Like, oh, I have to either fully breastfeed my baby or I have to just offer formula. Like, you are allowed to do both. You can do whatever works for you and your family. So don't put as much pressure on yourself to like meet these standards and like things that you might see online, social media a lot. Do what works best for you and your family.
Sierra, how does lack of postpartum care really impact Black mothers specifically? And why is culturally competent support necessary?
It's really important and necessary because just with our history in general, maybe your grandmother or your mother didn't breastfeed, so it's harder for them to provide or offer that support that maybe other nationalities might have. So that's why I think it's really important to make sure that we are educating our community on what breastfeeding is, what it looks like, and then also offering support. So even if someone doesn't even like they've never breastfed before, they should be able to still maybe offer you, oh, hey, can I help you with something else to help to, let me think, what am I trying to say? Just to help you, support you in that realm of life at that moment.
Yeah. Tell us, what does Melamama offer? Is it home visits, virtual consultation, support groups, education classes? Walk us through what parents can expect in your program.
Okay. So in Melamama, we offer in-home lactation support, we offer telehealth, and we offer office. So we kind of meet you wherever you're at. We also have support group that is offered every first Monday at our office at noon, and anyone is really welcome to come. We are very open to whether you're a new mom or maybe you're still breastfeeding. You're like, oh, I'm ready to wean my child. Please come. Like, it's really turned into really just postpartum support in general. And it has really poured into me personally as well.
Oh, that's amazing. Tell us how parents can stay connected with you.
They can stay connected by visiting us at www.melamamamaternalwellness.org. We also have an Instagram, which is Love Melamama, and we have a Facebook as well, Love Melamama.
Sierra Woods with Melamama Maternal Wellness. Thank you so much for joining us today on The Breakdown.
Thank you for having me.
Legacy and what it truly means to be strong. The memoir, Resilience Found Me, a memoir of anxiety, grief, and passing the crown. It's by Pamela Anita Mary Davis. It's an intimate and courageous account of navigating anxiety, enduring personal loss, and learning how to redefine resilience, not as silence, but as truth. And at a time when so many of us are balancing professional success with private battles, this conversation feels especially timely. Joining me now is author Pamela Anita Mary Davis. Thank you so much for joining us today on The Breakdown. Let's start at the beginning. Tell us a little bit more about your memoir and what led you to write it. Pamela, are you able to hear me? Oh, well, folks, that's live TV. So we will have to work on hearing more about Pamela's story and getting it recorded for you guys so that we can share it with you. We want to thank you so much for joining us today on The Breakdown. We're sorry about our technical difficulties here at the end, but we will make sure to tell you a little bit more about Pamela's story and her book and all that it represents and how it can help us fight and be resilient. Again, I want to thank you guys so much for supporting the Black Star Network. We have so much in store for you. And as always, you can check the website 24 hours a day for news right there at your fingertips. Roland Martin is getting ready for his show tonight, Roland Martin Unfiltered. It starts at 6 p.m. Eastern right here on the Black Star Network. And remember, if you ever want to represent the Black Star Network beyond the screen, there is an easy way to do that. You can head to shopblackstarnetwork.com where you can get official Black Star Network swag. We have hoodies and t-shirts, crew necks, and it's just a way to support the network and show pride in Black-owned media wherever you go. Don't stop there. When you shop blackstarnetwork.com, you're also supporting a growing collection of Black-owned businesses featured on the site, from apparel and accessories to even gift items. So that's where you can go to make sure that your money continues to circulate in our community. That's shopblackstarnetwork.com. Support the network, support Black-owned businesses, and of course, support the culture. That'll do it for us today on The Breakdown. Thanks for spending part of your day with us. Be sure to keep the conversation going. I love talking with you guys online. You can find me at The Noble Journalist. As always, please send in your questions and story ideas. Let us know what's happening in the communities so that we can share the news with you guys. Don't forget, we'll be right back here tomorrow with more news, more context, and more voices that matter. Again, for special news coverage, on-demand content, visit blackstarnetwork.com. Check out everything happening across the Black Star Network. I'm Brittany Noble. Thanks for watching The Breakdown. We'll see you again tomorrow.